Today's class will dive deeper into the science of society, and we're going to start by looking at questions. I hope you understand that I think the ability to ask questions is actually more valuable than the ability to know lots of answers. So let's look at questions and why they're important. One of the most important books of the 20th century is called The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, written by Thomas Kuhn. Thomas Kuhn is actually he's a physics professor and a philosopher. And Kuhn looked at what causes a scientific revolution to happen. Why is it that we go from one scientific system to a different scientific system? And when I read Kuhn's books and other people who write about the similar topic, I notice that questions are a centerpiece of looking at sort of the idea of revolution and change in science. So let's look at Kuhn's work. Well, in the old days, we used to believe that the Earth was the center of our system. Now, if the Earth is the center of the system, the question becomes, how do we explain the movement of the sun and the planets? And the way that early astronomers explained the movement of the sun and the planets was with these idea of epicycles. Literally, the planet of Mars was going in these spiral-like patterns around Earth like this. And Jupiter and Saturn were moving in these sort of elliptical epicycles, and the sun was going around us in a circle, and the moon was going around us in a circle. And a lot of astronomers, when they asked that question, how do we explain the movement of the sun and the planets, they said, this doesn't make sense. It's not logical to me. It just sort of flies in the face of what I see, the world I live in. So they started to change their questions. And the big word that comes out of Thomas Kuhn's book is the word paradigm. You've probably heard this word in popular culture. People will say, oh, we need a paradigm shift. We need a new paradigm. So what is a paradigm? According to Babby, he's a sociologist, paradigms are models or frames of reference we use to organize our observation and our reasoning. Paradigms have a taken for granted or assumed quality. All of us have this sort of paradigm we're working from. If you're a liberal or a conservative, you have a paradigm. It's a model. It sort of explains your world. A lot of conservatives don't like paying taxes, and they think that taxation is theft. A lot of liberals don't like corporations that are trying to make so much profit that it bothers them. These are both paradigms. And people working from these paradigms, it has a taken for granted sense. They feel like it's the truth. It organizes their thoughts. It organizes their facts. It organizes their reasoning. Everybody is working from a paradigm. When you're a parent, you have the parent paradigm. You worry about your children, you worry about their safety, you think that you are responsible for them. And if you're a teenager, you have the teenage paradigm. You think you're indestructible, you're out to have fun, you want to hang out with your friends, you think your parents are encroaching on your freedom. So every sort of conflict in our society, it's basically people working from different paradigms. They have a taken for granted quality to them that we don't even realize that, wow, you're working from a different paradigm than I am. That's not exactly the way that Kuhn used it. Kuhn was using paradigms to talk about scientific enterprises, sort of the Earth-centered paradigm to the sun-centered paradigm. All scientists are actually working from paradigms too. And we have to think about how our paradigm is shaping our science. So how do scientific revolutions occur? What if the Earth is not the center of the system? That's a new question. And when early astronomers put that question out there and said, you're working from the paradigm of the Earth-centered system, what if the Earth is not the center? That is a paradigm shift. That is a revolutionary question. What would the system look like? How would the sun move? How would Mars move? How would Venus move? How would Saturn move? How would the moon move? So I'm arguing here that questions are central to scientific revolutions. If we want to have revolutions in science, we need innovative questions that have never been asked before. We need to ask questions in ways that have never been thought of before. We have to change how we ask our questions. Here's a little bit more of a nuanced explanation of Kuhn's book and paradigm shifts. Kuhn argues, we're going to start here at the top with normal science and normal questions, is that the idea here is that we're doing normal science right now. Like right now, when I do sociology, I am doing normal science sociology. I'm asking the normal questions sociologists have been asking for the past 20 to 50 years. We have a common paradigm. We measure things, we make theories, we make predictions. But what happens in sociology and physics and biology is that as we're doing normal science, these anomalies start to develop. So sometimes when an anomaly happens, we say, my model predicts that this should happen, but something else happened. Sometimes scientists will blame their apparatus. They'll say, oh, there must be a problem with the measurement, there must be a problem with the computer, or there must be a problem with something. Sometimes they set the problem aside and they say, that was weird. Let's just put that over there. Sometimes scientists will modify the paradigm. They'll say, well, we need to add an extra variable. We need to look at this from the micro and the macro perspective. They'll modify the paradigm slightly. Eventually, we get to the crisis stage where there's too many anomalies. There's too many problems that we've set aside, and the faith in the paradigm starts to shake. And we say, wow, there's so many anomalies. There's so many problems that we keep setting aside and setting aside. Maybe we need a new paradigm. I've lost faith. So we change our worldview. We have this sort of scientific revolution where we start to see the problem from a different perspective. Maybe rather than seeing, as a sociologist, rather than seeing the world from just a macro perspective, maybe we need more of a micro perspective. Rather than seeing the world only in terms of objectivity, we need to add more subjectivity. There's some fundamental change in how we see the world that needs to change in a major way. So then you go into the pre-paradigm stage where you're starting to develop a new paradigm. It's rather anarchic or chaotic, rather. Facts seem to be unguided, sort of like, where do we put things? It's kind of like we don't know what we're doing for a while in the science, whether it's physics or sociology or biology or political science. And eventually we develop a new paradigm. Things start to become routine. The revolution becomes invisible now. Everyone sort of accepts it. It's been going on for 50 years or 100 years. And we go into a period of normal science again, where we ask normal questions. And the cycle starts over and over. And this is coming out of physics, but it also applies to sociology, political science, economics. We do have these sort of paradigm shifts. And again, I'm emphasizing questions, questions, questions. The ability to ask questions and ask innovative questions is extremely important. So I want you to develop that skill. Again, just want to come back to this definition. Paradigms are models or frames of reference we use to organize our observations and our reasoning. The sociological imagination is a paradigm. It is the dominant paradigm. The idea of macro, meso, and micro and thinking about the world in that way.